So Robin here. Today I'm going to build a little hothouse or a little terrarium where we're going to grow some lettuce or tomatoes or spinach or whatever seeds I find lying around. So let's start. And I've got some potting soil here. I've got a 5-liter jug. I have some sand I collected, some pebbles, some small pebbles, and I'm using this bag I'm going to cut up to make a little sand filter. So let's start with the bottle, and here is a toilet roll. So I'm going to cut this toilet roll in to about just less than half, and I'll explain to you why we do that now. Alright, my trusty Leatherman, and I'm going to use my rope cutter, and as the bottle smooths out, I'm going to cut it just down from there. Alright, so now we got the lid, and now I'll show you how we can make that lid just go in a little bit later, but for now, so this is going to form our center here, and we're going to make a little a water level. So I'm going to make it a bit smaller than that. So it's probably about 3 centimeters. And I'll explain to you why we're going to do that now. Alright, so we're going to have to cut this out. So I'm just going to place it on top because this is more or less any kind of gauze, or just so it's got some holes in it. And then we need to also, just for our toilet roll, we want a little hole in the center, like that. Okay, so it's not as circular as I would have liked it, but we can fix that. Alright, so it's done with the cutting. Alright, so I'm going to take a piece of my pebbles, and I'm going to line the bottom and keep my toilet roll either to the center, because that's where I made my hole, but it could be to the side as well. And this is going to form our water table, so it'll maintain water below the plant's roots, like that. So you want the stones to come to the top of the level with the top of your toilet roll. And I'm going to put this back, okay, like that. And this is just to stop the sand from dropping down into the stones, more or less. It's not an exact science, but it's more or less. Some of the sand will get there, but most of it will stay on top. So just some river sand is fine, and then I basically fill that, including there, and I'll explain to you what's going to happen. So we just need a thin layer, just as a filter, probably about, say, 2 centimeters, 2-3 centimeters of sand. Okay, so what will happen now, the sand has gone down to the bottom of the jug, and what will happen when the water comes up, it's going to wick up into the soil. What I want is, also we don't want the water to come up too high, so we want to put a little hole here just below the top of our water level. So you can put a pipe in here. I'm going to probably do that later, but I'm just going to show you where your hole is. So the water will leak out, so it doesn't, if you overwater it, the water will get out at that high, but it will still stay all the way up to that level. Okay, so now some potting soil. And you can mix it in a little bit with the sand, because I find They call it potting soil, but I don't know the difference between potting soil and compost, other than it's a little bit finer. So you can bring some of your sand in from the bottom if you want a little bit more of a sandy soil, and you want it probably also about, it's probably about 5 centimeters thick, maybe a little bit more. And then just remember, whatever you're going to grow is going to grow to that height. So, okay, so I got some water. I'm going to now fill up my terrarium with water. So I'm not too worried how much water, because I got that overflow. And you can also put a pipe in the overflow and put something underneath this thing, however you want. I'm not too worried because it's going to leak out onto the grass. So you'll see it'll now drain through, and I don't know if you can see it, but my water table is filling up there, and eventually it will actually come out of that hole I made. Where is that hole? There, you can see it's leaking out there. So that's the top level. So the idea of this is the water, it's going to keep the soil moist all the time, because that wicking will happen up the sand up the soil into the sand, and into the compost, and any excess water will drain out, and we won't need that. So I'm just going to wait until the excess water drains, because I actually put too much in, and now it is way too wet. And then I'm going to plant some baby spinach. So I want the lid to fit back on here, but because it's the same size, it's just going to fit on top. It's not going to go in. So I'm going to take a lighter, and I'm just going to kiss the edges, and you'll see they'll move in when I heat it up. So I just kiss the edges with the lighter, and it kind of goes inwards as it heats. Pulls the plastic in. Okay, that should be enough. Do it as much as you need, but when I put the lid on now, you'll see it fits nicely over. Easy way to just bring it in a bit. So it's easy to put the lid on and off. Okay, so I've let the water drain out of the water table. It's still a little bit, but I'm going to do some tomatoes. Won't work. Yeah, well, they might work in the beginning, but you'll have to take the lid off afterwards, which is also fine, and put a stick in there for it to go upwards. But I'm going to go for some, this is baby spinach, and it says here they need to be planted 10 centimeters apart. So 10 centimeters is about that. So I can probably put in like 4 holes here with my finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 1 in the middle. And what I usually like to do is I usually put, say, 2 or 3 seeds in each hole, just to make sure I get some germination in each one. So here's a few seeds, actually quite big seeds. So let's take 2 at a time. Top 2 there, 3 in the middle for luck, 2 on that side, and 2 on this side, and 2 on that side. And I'll just cover them over and just read the packet how deep they're supposed to be. I just stuck them in, but maybe I'm supposed to have a specific depth. Put the spare ones back. I'll just fold that over, keep it with a piece of tape. I usually put a little piece of tape on mine here just to fold it over, and it kind of seals it a bit. And then it's probably a good idea to put it in a Ziploc bag, and then just put a paper clip there, and then basically put our top on here like that, and then you can just put it in a semi-shady area, and then you'll see the condensation actually collects around here. The water will go on the outside. I suppose you have the option where you could put the lid on the inside, and the water rolls back into the system. So that's also an option. But I mean, I've got water here. I'll just fill it up once in a while. But you'll see that water table lasts quite a long time. You don't have to water it. Probably need to just top it up every week or so, maybe every 2 weeks, depending on how much sunlight and heat there is. But we'll monitor it and see how it goes.